All right, what do you say? Good?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Official welcome, everybody, to this part 2 of ADKYP Meets the Candidate. We've got Chris Rosenquest, as I'm sure you all know. Before we get rolling, I just want to do a quick little shameless plug for Adirondack Young Professionals, or ADKYP. If you have not heard of us before, come check us out. We are a group of younger focused, although we do not discriminate. Young professionals, but we also don't discriminate. If you work at Starbucks, you're still a professional in our eyes. So we do networking events throughout the community. We try to give back as well with volunteer work. Most of the time we meet after work, but of course with the pandemic, we've been put on hold for a little bit. So we've been primarily trying to do some outdoor events, as well as stuff like this over Zoom or Google Hangouts. So, Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, Megan, and everyone else, I appreciate the Starbucks reference, but come on. Fundamentally, I'm an entrepreneur and a business owner, but at the end of the day, I make coffee drinks all day. And so, I love being a barista, and I love that as part of my profession. So, a couple shout outs to people that I do know. Megan, I met you a few weeks ago. Thanks for helping everything with the cafe getting started. Forrest, I see you. Good to see you, brother. David, I see you, my man. Let's see, Rachel. Wow, that's awesome. And Courtney, I see you down there. First, just appreciate the opportunity to meet most of you all and to introduce myself and who I am. Some of you may not know who I am, and so it's just for me, it's just an opportunity and an honor to be seen and to introduce who I am and what I'm doing and what I've done in the community. My name is Chris Rosenquest. I am a county legislator, currently serving on the Clinton County Legislature for Area 9. And for those of you who don't know where Area 9 is, it's one of two full city districts, meaning my legislative area is completely within the city of Plattsburgh. I don't cover parts of the town or any other municipalities. I represent the city of Plattsburgh. And it runs generally from Cornelia Street all to Ruger Street, up to Starbucks. There you go. And all the way down to a historic district near the Naked Turtle, and does a little weird thing around Club Road. That's who I represent. It's about 8,000 to 9,000 constituents in the county, and obviously the overlap is within the city of Plattsburgh. And I've been doing that. This is my second term now, so I've been doing that for about 5-6 years now. I think I'm on my fifth year. Let's see. I grew up here. I was raised here. My family moved here with the Air Force Base when I was right around 6 or 7. And I did all my formal schooling here. Went to St. John's Elementary. If you don't know where that is, it's where Broad Street Commons currently is. It used to be a building there. That was a school. And then after that, went to Plattsburgh Middle School, Plattsburgh High School, graduated in 93. I have a 2-year degree from Clinton Community College. And then I went and did my 4-year degree at Plattsburgh State. In 2000, I moved, just like a lot of our young people do, get a college degree. My career path went to technology, and there just wasn't anything technology related, software technology related here in the city of Plattsburgh or in the area. So my career path took me west. I ended up moving to San Francisco in 2000, which was right at the height of the .com boom and bust. Helped start a company out there. We did extremely well and ended up purchasing another company in Minneapolis, and then moving our location and our headquarters over to Minneapolis, where that company got sold. And then I went into software consulting, software design, software engineering consulting, and technology management consulting. And I continued to do that for the lion's share of my career. And then in 2005, I believe, I moved to Seattle. I moved to Seattle. And right around that time was a time when I was looking at moving home around 2005, and decided, it probably wasn't the right time in my career. Certainly I was looking to be a lot more hands-on consulting. And so I ended up moving out to Seattle. where I continued technology, my tech career in technology management, and then I completed my MBA at University of Washington Foster School of Business. So I do hold 3 degrees. One's an MBA, bachelor's in English, of all things, English with a print journalism major. I'm a little bit of a closet writer, and then my degree from Clinton. And if a lot of you remember, in 2013, I ended up moving home, and that was that really was the time that presented itself, the opportunity that presented itself for me to move back. And I ran for mayor then, and I was a third-party candidate. I did not have a party. I was not related to a party or associated to a party at that time, and I came in second place. So the Republican challenger, myself, and then the Democratic challenger. That's how the kind of like the results lined up. So since then, I've been I started the Plattsburgh Renewal Project, which has now been pretty much ended. But during that time, we installed the Tibetan Mandala downtown, the film festival, the welcome home events that were like the Christmas events at the Strand, and a couple other small little like quality of life things like ward walks. We did walks throughout the wards and throughout the city. In 2015, I ran for the county legislature in Area 9 against another opponent. Thankfully, I won, and I've been serving on the legislature since. In my experience on the legislature, I think presents very unique for, contributing to being the mayor. And in that, just the political partnerships, the projects that I've completed, the amount of money that I've allocated and been able to obtain for local, the city of Plattsburgh community projects and regional community projects, as well as my experience as the finance chair, which I served for 2 years, and the chair of the Economic Development and County Operations Committee. So I've served on those 2 committees over the last 5 years of my time there.
Awesome. Well, aside from all that, what do you do for fun?
Oh, geez. I'm an avid cyclist. I love riding my bike. And my almost 3-year-old now loves riding his bike too. He's got like a little push bike, balance bike, and I like loading him up on the trailer, go for like long rides. I'm a snowboarder. I've snowboarded since about 2001, 2002, including instructor. I've been a certified snowboard instructor. Let's see, I coach women's rugby at Plattsburgh State, and unfortunately our season has pretty much ended. I ref rugby as well, so that's helps me keep fit. But that season's pretty much ended, so I'm putting on my winter coat, and just generally community work as well. So that's pretty much what I do for fun. I love working too. Like I said, I love being behind the bar making coffee and exploring coffee, and that's a throwback to my Seattle time. That's how that whole thing started. But I love this as well. Business development, personal development as well. And so, yeah, that's where things are at for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. So I'll just run through kind of our basic icebreaker questions here. We'll start with, what is your favorite thing about Plattsburgh or the North Country as a whole?
Yeah, I would certainly say there's a close-knit relationship that people have here that I have always found myself to be welcomed or belong in this community. That's one of the reasons why I did want to move back home, because I always felt like, even though I was developing my career and I was successful in my career, I always felt like how I put it is like I felt like a country mouse in the big city. And it just didn't quite fit, like the rat race of it and the urban and the concrete jungle of it didn't fit. So I really wanted to come home to settle down and to create roots. But just the opportunity, the outdoor opportunity to be here. We've got a beautiful lake. We've got a fantastic river in our city. We've got access to the mountains, and then proximity to bigger cities like Montreal and Boston and Albany and New York City that is really just a stone throw away. So these are all certain opportunities that I also see that we can leverage in terms of our geographic location to attract people here and to enhance what we have to offer as people either are traveling through or people decide to kind of set set roots here.
Yeah. No, I think we can all agree. We definitely
Yeah.
like the seasons, like the outdoors, like the
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And also, I just wanted to say, like, if you all have questions, I've got the chat open. Okay. So if you all have questions, just start throwing questions in the chat and I'll respond as they come up, kind of thing. That'd be cool.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what is your vision of Plattsburgh in a year, 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, I think that the initial vision for the first 5 years is certainly start to put things in motion. There's in terms of planning, I like the plan. I like putting forth a plan, thinking through the problems that we have to solve as a community, and whether it be as a business or consulting other businesses, or leading, being a local politician, looking at how do we plan for the future. And so when I started to run my campaign and looking at, well, what can people expect of me? That's when we put forward the plan for Plattsburgh, and that outlines that kind of timeline of what are we going to do in the first year? What are we going to do over the next 2 or 3 years? That's going to set us up for some generational change, some generational changes that are both immediate and needed, and transformational. And that's kind of why we put forward that plan for Plattsburgh. I'd say in the first year, it has to look, from my perspective and from conversations I've had, it has to look like community involvement, engaging community, integrating community conversations. We've seen a significant amount of voters and groups disenfranchised, and that's a lot of that frustration that we've seen from those groups is because they don't have a voice, or their voice isn't being, not to say they don't have a voice, they do have a voice, but their voice isn't being integrated into community decision making, and that needs to happen. So part of my plan, and as I've outlined, is engaging some of these groups to solve the housing problem that we're facing, to identify how to grow our tourism and attract more tourists here as a way to generate revenue in the city. So that's probably like the first year, 2 years. The 5 years after that, I think that moves more into a really solid integration and partnerships with our regional partners. Look, when it comes down to it, you're going to hear me and my opponent say pretty much similar things. It's because we are both out talking with people. We're both out asking, what is your concern? Where do you think we should be? What's the problem that you're faced with as a business owner, as a community member, as a taxpayer? And I think the difference that I'm inviting you as a group, and inviting the city voters and even local voters, regional voters, town of Plattsburgh, and you have friends here, that the approach on how to solve these things is going to be very distinct. It's going to be different. It's going to be what I'm trying to provide is precise actions based on my experience in business and management and politics. So part of that 5-year plan is more integrated relationships with the town of Plattsburgh and the county and all of our other taxing jurisdictions like the school board. Specifically, what that looks like is infrastructure investment. One of the things that the town is doing very well right now, I know infrastructure investment, I mean, we're talking about building roads and sewer lines and water lines, and it's not the hottest thing to talk about. But at the end of the day, if you want to talk about regional growth and job growth and supporting the future, we got to talk about that, right? So we're looking at water systems, for example. We provide wastewater, sewer water processing for the town of Plattsburgh, and looking at how do we expand that with the town, in partnership with the town, as they're growing their industry and their land development. Recreation, that's another thing. We've got fields, we've got rivers, we've got lakes, we've got recreational facilities at the Crate or the rec center on the Oval. But obviously, that's been over time chipped away at in terms of the investment that we've made into those things. The town of Plattsburgh may not have those facilities. Other municipalities in the county may not have those facilities. So looking at how do we partner with for example, the town and the county, to provide programs for youth programs and senior programs. And that's really what I think that's the first step in terms of that type of regional partnership, is looking at those types of programs that are going to impact those most vulnerable in our community, which are the youth and the seniors. 10 years out, I think there should be some lines. There's, look, you'll hear a lot of people say that the town needs to dissolve, or the city needs to dissolve and be absorbed by the town, or the town needs to disband. And I just don't necessarily see that happen in the next 10 years. But what we can do is we can start blurring those lines a little bit. We can certainly start blurring the lines of who, in terms of the services that we provide, making sure that when we do provide that service, it's consistent. For example, we talk about in the plan, we certainly talk about biking. I call it multimodal transportation plan: biking, walking, driving, public transit. That's something that we can easily work with the town on. They've got a great transportation plan that we can borrow and change for ourselves, and so that there's some consistency. So we start to blur those lines a little bit, but overall, that's kind of where things are at. And part of I think what we need to do as a community is identify ourselves. I don't know who's in marketing, but when we start to talk about our value proposition as a community, part of it is also understanding who we are and what we offer. If somebody drives in the city and they see the beautiful blue sign gilded and says City of Plattsburgh, the Lake City, and at the same time, as a community, we're not investing in our lake, we're not investing in our waterways, we're not investing in the beach. That's part of the concern, right? So looking at how do we identify ourselves, and how do we identify ourselves, and what are those kinds of resources that we offer other people that we identify with, and to become more of a tourist community, because I believe that's also a path forward for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think a lot of us wish we had a little bit more lake frontage to play on. So
yeah,
I'll appreciate that long term. All right. So why do you want to be mayor?
Yeah, it's oh man, that's like the hardest question to answer, right?
I know.
Yeah, it really is. It's like, because my 3-year-old asked me, he's like, "Daddy, you running for mayor?" I'm like, "Yep." He's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Miles, why are you asking me that?" Dude, I love you, man, but just give me a hug. Why do I run for mayor? Look, there's a specific opportunity that I think that we have as a community that continues to go untapped, and that is innovation, outside the box thinking, and really focused on. And we hear this, you hear this, I hear this, and at some point it becomes a little frustrating that you say, or I say, we have so much potential. We've got so much potential here, but we keep saying it. We keep saying we've got so much potential. When does that potential realize into something actual? And that's what we need. That's why I think, from my background, my community work, my business work, my political work, my family work, the whole thing, that's what I'm bringing to the table. And I think it's a very unique set of skills that I feel that can translate that potential into something actual. And I think now's the time to do it. We can keep waiting and waiting and waiting, but we've been waiting for a long time for something. We've been waiting for a long time for something to break open here. And I think it's time.
Yeah. What do you see as the biggest challenge for the city, and how do you plan to overcome it?
Yeah, the biggest challenge is certainly the attracting more money here. And I think part of, again, going back to that identity, I think part of the thing that we get stuck with, or we get trapped by, is saying, well, the town of Plattsburgh has all this land to develop on, and they're going to bring all this industry. Shira Marston. Okay, I got you. Trying to regain my thought here.
Okay, biggest challenge.
Yeah. So we talk about, like, how we compare ourselves to the town of Plattsburgh, and the town of Plattsburgh has all this land to develop on, and they've got all these big businesses moving in, and we're landlocked, and we don't have developable land. Okay, that is accurate. Now, the way to go about that, in my mind, is not to start annexing land. That's not. Don't think that that's going to solve the problem of us not having land. That's just going to say we've just got more land. What are we going to do with it? Maybe somebody will move in. Maybe they won't. We don't know, right? Without a plan. So it goes back to identifying who we are. And if we say we've got a lake, and we've got history, we've got historical resources, we've got access to, for example, I talk a lot about the Old Base Campus Museum and the history and the interpretation that they provide for our community. If we look at those types of opportunities as a tourist community or as a community that can attract quality of life, then it's a different conversation for how do we generate money. We then generate money through housing opportunities. We generate money through tourism opportunities, through educational and travel benefits for people coming into our city and staying here. So I think that's ultimately pushing ourselves into that direction to help solve that problem. But then there's also, as we've seen, there's like this exodus. There is this exodus from more densely populated cities to more rural communities like ours. And so there's an opportunity to capitalize on some of that growth as well.
Yeah. Let's see. How do you plan to handle the city finances?
So again, going back to my experience, we talk about in business, if for those of you who are in business or you own your own business, you talk about the triple bottom line, people, planet, profits. And we talk about how that all mixes together to create something a little bit more impactful than just finances, just the financials, ones and twos that you can look in a spreadsheet. And, certainly when you're in business school and they say, analyze this spreadsheet, and you analyze the spreadsheet and you balance the budget and you balance the numbers but you don't really get a good sense about what's behind that, other than you sell more widgets, you make more money, you reduce the cost of selling that widget, you make more money. This still goes back to planning. It still goes back to planning and understanding how the city makes money in terms of assessed values. It talks about the sales tax increases that we get, and that's also how we make money. In terms of saving money is using technology to deliver our services, or even looking at those opportunities to share those services and share the delivery of those services. These are things that there are some things that we do in shared services already, like assessment. We use the county for tax assessment, but there's also room for growth on that. And that, I think, over the last 3 or 4 years, when, as the chair of the finance committee, we kind of kicked off this large scale effort to share services throughout the county. We brought all the supervisors into the room. We all talked, hey, how is this going to work? Here are some of the top level services that we can share. And these are the communities that are going to focus on that. These are the communities that don't want it. So there's also an opportunity to come back to the table on that, which hasn't happened in earnest in quite some time. So that's, in terms of addressing the ability to raise money or increase our revenue, again, tourism, and also there is an opportunity to work with the town of Plattsburgh to generate that and to generate those money making opportunities, and that's not lost on me.
Awesome. All right, so this will be my final icebreaker, but it might be I called it, I think, the elephant in the room, the gorilla in the room.
The Prime Project.
Yeah.
The Prime Project. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So. Yeah. In early June, certainly in the beginning of my campaign, and certainly more publicly, I guess, in June when we did the debate, I pretty clearly came out not supporting the existing project, the very monolithic project. It didn't include community input. I was also part of that, gave input, and it didn't jive with the powers that be, and it was kind of like, okay, thanks, but no thanks, we don't want that input. And so there's certainly this ongoing concern about that development. Unfortunately, even as a legislator, even as somebody who helps make decisions in our community, there is nothing that I can personally do or professionally or politically do at this point to change the direction of that. We do have to rely on our zoning and planning laws and the independent zoning and planning boards that are making those decisions. And as we saw just this week, the Clinton County Planning Board voted to reject the changes that came back. Okay. Also understand, to be completely transparent, I'm in the room with a lot of these folks. I'm in the room with the prime developers. I'm talking to zoning and planning board members. I'm talking to planning board members at the county level to try to figure out, well, is something salvageable given the community concern and given the need for prime to make money or to develop and also to help leverage the monies that have come to the city through the DRI. At this point, I don't think there is a way to salvage it. I just don't, in my political and professional opinion, I don't think there is. I should say salvage it, but I don't think there's a path forward for that project. The question then becomes is, for me and for my campaign, and hopefully for the rest of the community, is what's plan B? Because for the most part, and most of the people that even oppose the current project still want that parking lot developed. They still believe that the best use of that space is not a parking lot, but rather a smaller scale residential development that fits closer to the Durkee Street Reimagined project, which you can download from my website as well. So the question then becomes is what is plan B? And what are the safeguards that we put in place so that this never happens again? If the state or some large-scale developer comes and says, we want to give you a bunch of money to develop someplace in your community, how do we figure out how to support that from both the developer side and from the community side, right? And so I've proposed, you can go to my website, rosenquestforplattsburgh.com. On the issues page, there's a DRI link where you can read several items that I say we can and should be putting in place. One, the wholesale revision of our zoning and planning laws. I called for this back in 2013. In 2013, I said our zoning and planning laws are antiquated. They don't focus on, and I hope I'm saying your name right, Shira. But this also addresses I think this also addresses your question, is ensuring that our zoning and planning laws provide the right type of development around our waterfront and the right level of development that we want as a community around our waterfront. I think that's super key because those are our natural resources. Those are the things that we love about the North Country. Those are the things that we love about Plattsburgh. We love the river. We love the lake. We love the mountains and access to those things. So we need to have public access to those. And I agree. So I think that's where a wholesale revision of those zoning and planning laws come in place. Now, currently what's happening is those are being revised. And even when I asked for that information, I'm told, well, you've got to FOIL that information. You've got to go through this process to get access to this, what should be public information, which should be public access to information that is going to impact the next 20 to 30 years of development in the city of Plattsburgh. That should be a community conversation. That should not be a conversation for 5 or 6 people in a room. So that's one thing that I talk about. The other thing is a citywide master plan, a comprehensive citywide master plan. Again, there is some work being done, but again, where, how, okay?
Yep. Just for everybody listening, I'm just going to quickly read some of the comments here.
Yeah.
So Chris, you said you agree. Sandra had said, hoping whoever is mayor does not make the same mistake as Winooski, Vermont, or other small cities have made, a monolithic development that takes away from the uniqueness, flavor, and history of Plattsburgh. And then you kind of tied into this question, but we can dig a little bit more into it if you like. Shara asked, or she said, you mentioned the lake. There's very little public access to the lake. Do you have ideas on how to exploit the waterfront so that the whole community, all ages, can enjoy it?
Yeah, and that does go back to that zoning and planning, and understanding exactly how do we use those zoning and planning laws to make sure that any type of development that comes into our city, that it focuses and highlights our public access and our waterfront rather than takes away from it. In probably about 2012, it was just a couple years before I got here. The Chamber of Commerce released the Destination Master Plan, and that's something that I'm the legislative liaison to the Chamber of Commerce, so I've worked hand in hand with them over the last 5 years to develop their tourism model for our region, which attracts tons of people here, as well as help negotiate the occupancy tax law that ensures that people who stay here kind of pay into this like tourism promotion.
Sure.
So I'm well aware, well versed of tourism in our area and how we can position ourselves as a tourist community. Not to say like that's not all the eggs in our basket, right? But that's a low hanging fruit for us. Like being a tourist community, it's a low hanging fruit for us. That Destination Master Plan, because it has been years past in its development, is something that we can and should go back to reference as a way to say, hey, these were really good ideas then. How is it applicable now? And how can we use those for the next 5, 10, 15 years of developing our community, our waterfront, which it does highlight waterfront development and how to leverage and focus development around the beach. It talks about history and again, that history, that leveraging our history. I mean, like you can use exploiting our history or exploiting our waterfront to make our community more attractive to both people moving here and to tourists coming. So those are things. Those are ways to do that. We were talking about Prime. There are a handful of other like solutions that I am proposing, so that when things like this do come up in the future, and we do hope, like, look, no doubt, we hope and we want things like this to come up. We want development. We want to grow, and so making sure that there are safeguards like community benefit agreements and clearly outline timelines for RFP responses, and making sure that there are certain safeguards that kick in when certain criteria aren't met, such as local developer responses. If an RFP goes out and there's no local developer response, then kick in a community benefit agreement, kick in a public advisory committee to review the proposal and to respond back to the council or those decision makers in a way that's transparent and available.
That's awesome. So Shara attended Scott's as well, so I'm going to pull up a couple of her questions.
Yeah.
Hi, Lily. She brought up the Crate Center and how you feel about it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that goes hand in hand with the rec center as well. You know, over the last, you know, we've certainly seen since 2016 or since then, there's been this slowly defunding of the rec department, and we've seen it. You know, we see it in our parks, we see it at the beach. You know, the beach wasn't open this year, partially because of COVID and partially because it didn't have funding, you know, and that's certainly a concern, a long-term concern for me, because when you don't invest in something, you know, just like if your car needs an oil change, your car needs new tires and you're letting him go, well, guess what? You're not going to have a car for much longer because it's going to break down and it's unfixable at that point. Certainly my concern right now is how fixable is the Crate Center? You know, how fixable is the rec center? And, you know, we did see an RFP go out for a third party to manage and run the rec center. And I certainly have been an advocate for a regional study that has been prompted by the YMCA to help determine how regionally do we do recreation? How can we provide recreation opportunities regionally? And the YMCA has been, you know, spearheading that from the county's perspective. I helped ensure that they get money for that through the Tobacco Settlement Fund. So looking at those types of partnerships, and again, that just goes back to that shared services and those regional partnerships to figure out how do we how can we grow as a community through those partnerships? And I think that's part of the Crate Center and the Rec Center is, I do know that there's somebody has put a proposal in to use the Rec Center or use the Crate Center for the winter, because that is popular for indoor soccer teams and indoor sports in the wintertime. And hopefully that does work out. But overall, we do have to find a longer term plan for recreation, which includes the Crate Center, which includes the beach, includes the Rec Center, the oval, and all the fields there, all the number of baseball fields and parks that we have throughout the community that have gone ignored for too long.
Yep. So our board member, Megan, I don't believe she's here tonight, but this question ties in a little bit. She said city events seem to have become rather lackluster, excluding the effect of COVID. So what major events in the city of Plattsburgh do you enjoy and would like to see rejuvenated, or possibly a spinoff of those to other organizations to manage?
Yeah, and I think that, certainly the Battle of Plattsburgh got spun off to its own nonprofit that has been managing it. The Mayor's Cup is one of the biggest events that we have, and years ago it was tied in the 4th of July. Whether or not that's financially feasible or not, it's certainly, we're not going to do fireworks every night. We're not going to do a parade every day. But certainly having that kind of celebration and focus on our community, especially during the summer months. I mean, and the nice weather, it's like that's the time to really start to bring people in. I think those are the two, primarily those two events, the 4th of July tied together with the Mayor's Cup, and then also the Battle of Plattsburgh. But for us, I think it's also important to understand what those things provide. Certainly that quality of life. We all look forward to the parade. We all look forward to Israel Green's Tavern. We look forward to, closing the streets and being able to walk up and down and the fireworks. But, when you look around and all the people are out there, those are people coming in from other communities. That's an opportunity for us to highlight who we are and to say, look, we love you. We want you here. Please come back. And by the way, spend your money. Because that helps us, it does. It helps our sales tax revenue. It helps our businesses local, not only downtown, but uptown. People do come and they stay here. They stay here for those times. But there's also partnerships, say like, the Chamber of Commerce. They've done the Bassmaster every single year. This year was no different. They did it even in the midst of a COVID. Hey, awesome. Thanks. You know what? You're gonna kick me if I keep saying your name wrong. So I'm like really hoping I say your name right, Shira. But I'll meet you on Friday, hopefully too. Okay, thank you, and no worries. So yeah, I think that's that is the opportunity for us to also look at those types of events too, not just those big public close the streets and have a parade and fireworks, but also how do we leverage our beach? We're certainly using our waterfront to attract people and to attract name brand opportunities here, like Bassmasters. That's an internationally recognized organization. The AVP volleyball tournament that happens at the beach. Not a lot of us know about that, but that happens, and people are attracted to our beach for that reason. Or kite surfing, the windsurfing opportunity, or the windsurfing competition that happened in the last couple years. These are chances for us to, again, you want to talk about exploiting our waterfront for not only for our own sake, but also for tourism and quality of life attraction. Those are things that we are currently doing, but they go underrepresented certainly by the city and things that we can start to enhance and put more gold on.
Yeah. Sort of tying in still, we're talking about holidays here. Jennifer had asked, with holidays coming up, I think community members are wondering how they will look. Halloween is the first big event to shape the future of our community in regards to receiving economic development and keeping positive mentalities through the pandemic. Do you have any ideas on how we can best evolve Halloween, for example, into a safe community-involved event this year? She joked Halloween 2.0, perhaps, inspiring hope through the winter seasons when many become seasonally depressed.
Yeah, and that's we do talk about, we are certainly concerned about the mental health in our community, and we obviously we're advocates for it, and advocates for organizations like NAMI and Clinton County Mental Health and Addiction and BHSN. I think that defining that cannot be, nor should it be, just based on one person. This is a community effort, and I believe that that is where we need to go with that kind of conversation. You know, if even if, say, like, you know, when you know, I've had my business downtown for 3 years now, and every Halloween we would open the door at the library and we'd put out a bowl of candy or something like that. You know, I don't think that there's anything beyond that, anything that says we can't do something like that, or, you know, focus a lot of our effort into one centralized area or two centralized areas in our community to get people out. You know, I certainly know what it was like for me. I love my wife, I love my 3-year-old, and I love my dog. But when it was time to get out of the house and things started to open up, I took that opportunity, right? Like I was like, okay, well, love y'all, and I got to get out of this house. So I think that's also the chance for our community to do the same thing as a community. I don't think we've had that opportunity. I don't think it's also is going to be an official opening up of our community either. But looking at those, you know, I think that those are certain opportunities that we can look at as a community and work it out. You know, work it out.
Awesome. So we also have here, Shannon had asked, what is your plan to help rebuild the local economy post-COVID? And how do you plan on supporting small businesses that are struggling currently? Yeah,
no doubt. And look, that's not lost to me. I'm a small business owner. I've been a small business owner, you know. I think right after I completed my MBA, I think that was the time for me to say, look, I'm gonna, you know, I've been consulting for a while, and I've been working for other people for a while, and I'm gonna, you know, kind of sharpen my own stone here, sharpen my own axe here. And so, you know, it's not lost on me that small businesses are struggling. And you know, next door to us, I've talked with, you know, restaurant owners, and they're like, you know, we need a stronger voice, and I think that's key. You know, again, me and my opponent, we're going to say the same things, and I think it's going to be about how we go about that, or the experience that each of us can bring to the table. I have worked locally as a business consultant. I worked with a small business development center as an advisor. I have had hands-on results of creating small businesses in our community, or helping small businesses expand and hire more people for their business. So in terms of understanding what small businesses need, look, I'm in the thick of it. I'm swimming in that soup. And so in terms of what the government can do and what City Hall can do, one, we do have an economic development revolving loan fund that goes largely underutilized, that if people knew about it, I believe that they could leverage that. They can leverage that to grow their business. They can leverage that to help with payroll. They can leverage that to you know, to give themselves just that next step. Awesome, Zach. Yes, thank you. So there's an opportunity for that, and also maybe, like, it certainly was before I moved back, but there was a business consortium. But again, that type of organization needs to have a much stronger voice in City Hall. We saw earlier this summer a business owner go to the Common Council with clear examples on what our city could do to help them. And unfortunately, you know, City Hall cannot find their way through to help make that decision. And that's really unfortunate, because you have this person that says, look, here's a problem. I've done all the work. Here's a solution. Here are other communities doing this thing that's helping their business. So please help us. And then they're told no. I don't see that. I don't see that being a sustainable model for a community like ours, that we do have a lot of small businesses and they need to grow. So making sure that those business owners, they have a voice in City Hall, they can help define and guide those types of governmental decision making. And that's in my plan as well. And understanding what their pain points are, so that as a municipality, we can remove those pain points for them, or certainly help remove those pain points for them. Yeah, for example, like, I went to a buddy's restaurant, and if you want to talk about the American dream, that, like, his parents are immigrants. He's first generation here, and they went to go apply for payroll protection, and they were declined. You know, and I said, look, I can call Elise I can call the governor. I can call, who do you want me to call? Like, who do you want me to call? Because I will call them. And but those are the kinds of, certainly those are the kinds of connections that I can bring to City Hall. That's going to, one, help our small businesses, and two, help ease ourselves out of the crisis right now.
Yeah. So we'll lead into, Scott had a question. What is your stance on the Police Department Community Center in regards to accomplishments they have made with NAMI and other organizations? Also the educational opportunities it creates for our youth.
Yeah. I talked to Officer Miller because, he's downtown, I'm downtown. So I see him and we run into each other. We'll sit outside and chat about his role. And it's key, one way or the other, and how I said it to him and how I say it to other people. I say, one way or another, we're going to pay for this. If we don't have a community center, if we're not engaging our youth, if we're not engaging those most vulnerable before something tragic happens, we're going to pay for it one way or the other. We're going to pay for mental health services. We're going to pay for incarceration. We're going to pay for it one way or the other. I'd rather, just like your health, you'd rather, exercise a little bit or take a walk rather than get sick or ill. There are preventative measures, and the community center is one of those preventative measures. I fully agree with that. There is some concern about funding for that. And like I said to Officer Miller, look, I can do whatever I can to make sure that you get that you receive funding, and that that we ensure that you have adequate funding ongoingly. And I believe that's for me anyway, that certainly is a community partnership with the county, with county DSS, because look, some of these people, they're the most vulnerable. They're going to lose their house. They might have a mental health breakdown and something's going to happen to them. And they're either going to go on public service, or they're going to go to mental health and addiction or something like that. So we're going to pay for it one way or the other. I'd rather support those people before there's a breakdown, and in a way that empowers them and doesn't demean them, so that they're aware and we're aware that, yes, there's a problem in our community, but at the end of the day, there's a safety net. Our community is a safety net, and it's not the other end of that spectrum where, they're in jail or they're homeless, because that's not helping us. That's not helping us.
Yep, absolutely.
The same thing with educational opportunities for youth. Again, you talk about, juvenile issues or juvenile crime. And, look, we are fortunate in our community. We for the most part, we're shielded from a lot of these issues that we see in bigger cities. But we're not completely immune. We're in a global pandemic right now. It's not like we're just like hanging out just like normal. Like, we're impacted by global issues. So the same thing goes with opportunities for educational opportunities for our youth, and recreational opportunities for our youth, right? You take a kid out of soccer, or you take a kid out of baseball or basketball. What are they going to do? They're going to hang out outside. They're going to run around the town. What are they going to do? We got to give kids something to do. So that's that. I think that goes part and parcel with that.
Definitely. Courtney has asked, how do we help young people engage in local community politics and take on positions such as influencers and decision makers? Part
of it is, Courtney, thank you. Part of it is showing up. Mm-hmm. It's, and I'll be straight. Like, okay, so this last election, this last primary, the 18 to 39-year-olds outvoted. They showed up to the polls more than, and I know that's a wide range of age, but they showed up to the polls more than all the 43-year-olds. And now that's my age range. I'm 45. All right, I get you. I might be aged out of your organization. I don't know. You said you're not ageist, so that's good. Thank you for doing that. But I think part of it is showing up, and not just like, hey, I went to a meeting and I went and I don't like the people there. Well, then bring 5 of your friends. Okay. And tell them to bring 5 of their friends, and then 5 of their friends. So sooner or later, y'all will outnumber them. And that's how you make change. But it's also consistent. If you show up one time and you say, this sucks, I don't like it, and these people aren't listening to me, well, then you got to keep going. You got to keep going as frustrating as it is, you know, what is it saying? Michelangelo wasn't built in a day, or Rome wasn't built in a day, or whatever that is. But it's kind of like that. You got to chip away at it. You got to chip away at being involved. And the more you're involved, the more you're involved, the more you become educated in the nuances of how decisions are made, and you can start to influence those decisions because you then do become an influencer. You know how things work. Whether you agree with how things work or not, that's pointless, because that how things are working right now, you know, I don't know. I don't think that they're working as well as they could be, you know, part of the reason why I'm running for mayor. But as you become more as you start to grow an understanding of how things work and who's making those decisions and how can you get access to information, then you can certainly start to help shape that future. It might take, look, I moved back here in 2013. We talked about some pretty progressive things in the campaign. You know, we talked about at the time there was no community development office. We said, look, hands down, we need a community development office. I lost the election, but guess what? We have a community development office. Great. That's what I wanted, or that's what we wanted, right? That's what we wanted as a community. Perfect. And we got that. So, you know, that's kind of the thing that I would recommend for, I mean, like you say, young people, anybody, like, you know, you're frustrated about a particular issue, or you have an opinion about a particular issue, get involved with those people who can make those differences. Or if you don't know, somebody does, somebody that you know, you can come talk to me. Who do I talk to about this problem or that problem? And I can put you in the right room with the right people, kind of thing. So,
yeah.
Yep.
That's kind of ADKYP is trying to move in a direction, more educational pieces for our members, and of course this political. And I to keep these rolling because I do think it helps people understand the inner workings of the town or city that they live in.
And it's key, and it's key because, you know, unfortunately, and I don't see this, like, I've worked with young people, and, you know, I'm like I said, I'm not a young person myself, but I see how people are grossly miscategorized just based on their age, or just based on what they look like, or what their job is, right? like, look, if you walk into my coffee shop and I'm behind the bar, like, making a coffee, like, for the most part, people don't know I'm, you know, I have people's, like, people on speed dial that I can call. You know, people don't know that I'm a decision maker. People don't know that, you know, I mean, some people don't even know I'm the owner. So, you know, part of it is just understanding who people are, and getting to know people and meeting people and creating, like, this level of human decency with people that you can get related to. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We'll tie into that one a teeny bit. What ideas do you have to involve SUNY students in our community and help us keep SUNY students in the North Country after they graduate? This is a question again from Courtney from the last time.
Yeah, again, part of my plan, if you read my plan, talks about volunteerism, and I think volunteerism in serving your community is of the utmost importance. And it doesn't matter to me if you're jobless, if you're making six figures, it doesn't matter to me. I think part of who we need to be as a community is giving back in some way or another. And it could be the most minor thing. It really could be the most minor thing. But part of engaging youth in our community is partially through volunteerism, partially through accessibility, and understanding that even though, you know, you may not live in the city of Plattsburgh, you may live in the town, or you may be a SUNY student, there's opportunities for you to contribute to our community, and identifying those opportunities in a way that it's easy for people to consume. Like, you know, look, you might want to paint something. So who do you go to? Or you might want to be part of the mural projects that are going up. Who do you go to about that? And without a very clear point of entry, it's hard to find that information. So part of my plan is saying, look, let's create some type of volunteer network or a volunteer point of access that identifies the number of community groups that we have in our city and our town, and help them help those community groups through saying, look, if you have volunteer opportunities or if you need volunteers, here's a way to engage a large group of people all at the same time who may share that same passion that you have as an organization. So that's one way. You know, the other way, in terms of engaging that, look, we're always going to have a town gown concerns, always, because, you know, as much as seniors graduate, new freshmen come in. So it's going to be the same conversation year after year after year until we build some type of cultural conversation that is better, that better integrates our SUNY students, because they are part of our community. For 9 months out of the year, they are ours. This is their home. So the more we continue to look at them as those students on campus, the less of an opportunity we have to lessen that burden of those town gown issues. And so there really is a and I think that's on us. That's on us. That's there. Look, if I come to your home and you don't welcome me in, and I'm going to be there for a while, how do you think I'm going to feel? If you came to my home and I said, hey, come on in, take your shoes off, here, have a drink, make yourself at home. What do you need? What can I get for you? That's a different conversation. So I think that's the kind of conversation that we need to have with our SUNY students that are coming into our community. And some of these people live here, by the way. I was a SUNY student that lived here. I grew up here. I was a SUNY student. I lived on campus. I had my own house, my off-campus apartment. So these are things that we need to do better at. I think as a community, we need to do better at it.
Definitely. Before we get to Ellie's comment, I have
too.
I just want to bring it here. Nicole asked in the last session, what are your plans for diversity and inclusion when it comes to Plattsburgh as a whole, and how can the city play a part to improve these efforts?
Yeah, and I think that goes back, that does go back to, welcoming SUNY students. And, that's probably the most diverse population of people we have coming into our community. And if we're not intentionally welcoming folks back in a way that's meaningful, I think that's the lost opportunity. When I was running the Plattsburgh Renewal Project, we did a welcome home SUNY students. And we did that 2 years in a row, and as a partnership with downtown businesses to get students off campus into our community in downtown to say, hey, look, you need an oil change, go to Warren. If you need a coffee, go to Coffee Cat. If you need, books, there's a bookstore right next to Coffee Cat. So there's an opportunity for you to be more integrated into our community, rather than just coming downtown to go to the Monopole or some other bar, right? Because we are more than that as a community. And I think that's part of that, creating that diverse conversation for us. And then again, finding opportunities for, as a municipality and as a community, finding more opportunities to integrate those kinds of decision makers. Because sharp, there's tons of community groups on campus that are looking for opportunities to contribute. And it's just for us to find those opportunities for them to contribute, and then to provide that avenue for them to contribute. So I think that also creates, that kind of welcoming environment for people where they then say, hey, I feel like I'm at home here. I can see myself staying forever and creating a family and planting roots. I came to Plattsburgh for a reason, for school, but I can stay. And I'm sure some of the folks on this call have that same experience. So.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Ellie's got a long one here. So she said the city of Plattsburgh has a lot of aged and neglected housing stock, along with a housing shortage, as we've mentioned. In 2015, she believes the city applied for and received a home repair grant program to help homeowners who can't afford complete necessary repairs. If elected, would you work to secure more programs like this for city residents? And then she followed up with, and are there any other solutions you can think of to implement and improve housing quality and affordability?
100%. So as a legislator, I was part of a group made up of town supervisors, another county legislator, to develop the Clinton County Land Bank. And the Clinton County Land Bank, the intention of that land bank was to identify those neglected houses, the zombie properties, the derelict properties that are kind of just sitting there. You know, there's one right on, which you probably, I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's kind of covered in vines and trees at this point, but there's one right on Cornelia Street and North Catherine. Right next, there's a little pocket park. It's right across the street from St. Peter's. There's a little pocket park right there, and it's right to the west of the pocket park. You'll see it next time you drive by, I guarantee you. But properties like that, they kind of just, you know, you've seen it so many times, and it kind of goes into the background. Oh yes, absolutely. Do you go by Elizabeth, Liz, or Ellie? Is that Ellie?
You call her Ellie, yeah.
Ellie, yeah. No doubt, right? And that's exactly, you know, it. So I'm glad I used that property as an example, because that's exactly what we talk about with the intention of that type of program, that type of land bank. The land bank structure is members of the land bank, including the city, town, whoever wants to buy into the land bank, they can also leverage their own funds into a separate account and look for properties like this. And they can buy these properties. They can either demolish or remediate, or, you know, enhance and, you know, fix them up, and then resell them, or sell them, or they can even rent the property, either low income or market rate or whatever you want to call it. They can either rent the property or they can sell the property. Combining the land bank's work plus there's a low income home ownership program that the county provides. $400,000 every single year goes into this program that provides opportunities for low income families to purchase their own home. So there's a combination and a partnership between the city having their own land bank and partnership with the county's low income home ownership program. And that's a perfect example of yes, we need housing stock. We all look. We're in a housing crisis, period. The 2 to 3% availability of houses and rentals in our community. And, you know, 60% of our residents, 60% of our residents are renters in the city of Plattsburgh, and 7% of those people need vouchers or low-income renters, and they need some type of voucher or some assistance to just stay in their homes. So the combination of the two, I believe very strongly that they are and can help provide some alleviation to the housing crisis that we're currently facing, especially making sure that we provide more housing for low-income families. That in partnership with the Plattsburgh Community Housing, who it's a spinoff of the Plattsburgh Housing Authority, but part of their work is also identifying derelict properties, purchasing them, and putting low-income families in those properties that don't look like public housing.
That's awesome. Nicole had asked, what is your plan to bring jobs to the area for young professionals?
Yeah. I mean, look, as a business consultant and as a business owner, and by the way, I do see somebody on here that I previously employed. So, and look, I would certainly invite that person to tell everybody what kind of manager and boss I am. I don't shy away from that. I'm human just like everybody else. I make mistakes like everybody else. But the type of manager I am is somebody who's transparent. I involve my team in decision making, and I, just as my other team members, have responsibilities, and I don't look at myself as I'm the boss of you. It's more like, hey, we need to get this done as a team. Let's figure out who's responsible for what. And when it comes down to it, I'll help direct traffic. But sidebar on that. The function for me personally as a business owner and consultant is to help provide opportunities for small businesses to grow. And that's what I've done, the majority of my career, not only just in technology and technology management consulting, but also afterwards when I really started to cut my teeth on business consulting and business management consulting. So that is one way that I have already been helping create jobs, not only for young people, but just create jobs in general. As a municipality, and as somebody who has had extensive experience in economic development in the region, I believe that my job as a mayor, or my job as a legislator, is to create the environment for jobs to be created. What does that mean? We go right back to infrastructure. You want to talk about building roads and water lines and electric lines and sewer lines? That's part of it. The economic development economic development and county operations committee secured a large scale grant to help develop the old airport. What does that mean? That means Norse titanium is up there. It allowed for infrastructure, roads to be built up there, water lines to be installed, sewer lines to be installed, which then leads to other partnerships. We partnered with the Development Corporation, the town of Plattsburgh, and Clayton County to provide this grant to develop this. That means the TDC can build new buildings. Other organizations, supporting organizations, can build new buildings around Norse that complement what Norse does. Those are job creators. And I believe that is what, as a municipality, that's what we need to be doing. Now, I point to that old airport as that was done in the town, and it was done in partnership with the town. So where does the city fall into this? Earlier on in our conversation, I said, look, what we do great is water treatment. We do that fantastic. We are experts at water treatment. Whether you agree where the location of our water treatment facility is or not, that's our expertise. Our job is to then create the infrastructure for those opportunities for growth locally and regionally. So that, when you talk about how do you attract jobs and how to attract young people, that's one way. That's one way to do that, is to ensure that we're positioning ourselves as a municipality that works with other municipalities, and we know how to invest in our infrastructure to help create those types of jobs. The other piece is, it's not just about money. Y'all know that. You can get paid six figures and work at a really crappy job, or work in a really crappy city, and that's not going to cut it. I've been there. I've been in those types of jobs. I've been in those types of communities and organizations. So the other part of job creation for us is to create a quality of life that's attractive to people. Bike lanes, paths, walking paths, beach access, water access, things that are local products, food, making sure that we can support and invest in those types of opportunities. So as a municipality, that is also our responsibility to create those types of jobs, is to invest in our infrastructure. Again, that goes back to that multimodal plan that I talk about. Transportation is very key to job creation. Transportation, without transportation, public transit, reliable public transit, people can't rely on getting to work. And we do live in a community where, a family of four might have one car. They might have one car to get their kids to school, one car to get one partner to a job, and the other partner to get to their job, right? And without a really strong public transit system, we really need to start thinking about how do we retain and create jobs in that sense.
Yeah. Megan had asked, would you be interested in working with CVES, BOCES, and CV Tech students as a mayor? And how would you like to see that partnership work if you were interested?
Sorry. I certainly think there's a job pipeline there as well. Mm-hmm. Look, city jobs are good. If you can find your way to being employed by a municipality, a county legislature, or the city of Plattsburgh or the town of Plattsburgh, those are good paying jobs. And long term, the benefits for those opportunities are worth spending, a couple decades in those types of jobs. So that's one opportunity. And I think that can't get lost on us is would I ever work in manufacturing? Probably not. It's not my skill set. It's not where I was attracted in my career, but other people are. Some people are interested in those things. And we just need to create that type of environment that's welcoming to people in their particular attraction to a volunteer opportunity or a job opportunity, and working with, and not only just CV Tech and CVS and BOCES students, but also high school students. get them involved, have them understand what municipalities do and what civics looks like, grade school students, middle school students, and having them understand age appropriate, getting them involved in age appropriate conversations for what we do as a municipality. That again, I think creates that opportunity for involvement. Hey, that, you never know what kind of conversation you're gonna have to shape somebody's future, and being available, right, and understanding how to create that availability, not only just through volunteer programs, but also through just that kind of like one-on-one engagement that you can have with people like that.
Yeah. All right. We will one more regular question, and then if anybody has anything else, send it in the chat. I've got two more here if you'd like.
Yeah, please.
Megan had asked, what is your position on the future of the Wills Island footbridge, and will your government take over its management?
Yep. Yeah, so the Webb Island footbridge, when that closed, and I'll say this, and I'm not shy about saying this, if that bridge were anywhere else in the city, if that bridge did not serve our south end, it would have been rebuilt. That is a very strong opinion of mine. I don't think that a debate between who's going to fix it, who's going to take it over, who's going to manage it would have been a concern if that were on the west end, or if that were North Plattsburgh. I think it would have been handled. So I think that I can be positional on this, and I understand, like, this is my own personal position, that I think that there was certainly like some issues with like low income housing and low income families that live in the south end accessing that bridge. And look, that is just my personal opinion about that. As a legislator, I advocated for $50,000 and secured $50,000 to go into a fund that would help ongoing maintenance of that bridge. Okay, that was an initiative that I started with the help of, at the time, Chairperson McManus, and multiple times on the legislature floor, I advocated and begged for my other colleagues to chip in on this, to chime in. Hey, I need your help getting this bridge opened. There's 3 city legislators, and they were also on board with helping getting this bridge open. So when things started to stall on that project, the first thing I did was call Betty, call Billy, call the legislature, and say, look, we need to get this happening. We need to get this moving. There was a meeting brokered between our assemblyman, our senator, the Chamber of Commerce, the mayor, the school board, and the county. Everybody felt like they were on the same page, walked out of the room, and then things changed. And that's been really unfortunate. My position right now is 100% the city should do what's right. Take the bridge, maintain the bridge long term. That's what's right for a community. That's what's right to rebuild that relationship and to help start rebuilding that relationship with the school board and between the school board and the city. 100%. And I've always been that's always been my position, as well as making sure that bridge had funding. So that's where I was at with that. That's where I'm at with that.
No, that's a really interesting take. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so we don't have anything else going on in the chat, so I'll give you this one. So it's a little out there, so be prepared.
Always.
Plattsburgh is in the direct path of the total solar eclipse on April 8th of 2024.
I knew that.
Communities had to prepare 2 years in advance for this massive economic impact.
Yeah.
What do you plan to do as mayor if you are mayor during this time?
Yeah, that is great. We're going to be flooded with people. I think we're just going to be like, people are going to be here, right? And look, that's just, we got to prepare for that. And I think that just goes right back to, who we are as a tourist community and making sure that we have those people here. And I think that's a fantastic opportunity. I think we should really be like blowing that up right now. Portland had a festival. That sounds perfect to me. That's right up my alley. So yeah, I think that's where we need to be, being partners with the Chamber of Commerce. Like I said, I've been partners with the Chamber, serving on their their tourism planning committee for the last 5 years. And I think that's right now, that is the opportunity to leverage for us, is to get that word out. We are the, I don't know. I have to come up with some really like curious like marketing scheme or marketing like label for it, but at 100%, I think we need to leverage that, and I think that's something that would be really fun for our community to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that is just about all I have for you, Chris.
Yeah.
Any closing statement?
Thank you. I just, I early in my maybe like late 20s, I had like this like life-changing event, and at that point in my time, I didn't really quite know where my life was going and where I wanted to be and I started to talk to myself about the legacy that I wanted to leave. And I think at that point it was very much like, the path that you're going on, Chris, is not going to serve anyone's purpose other than your own. And that's really the conversation I started to have for myself, is what is my life's purpose? And here I am. This being here in my community, contributing to my community in the way that as a teenager and as a youth growing up here, I never thought it would be. I just didn't. And the majority, I'll tell you, like, I know my teachers as an adult now, and the majority of them didn't think it was going to go this way either. So to be here with you, talking about what does the future of our community look like? How are we as partners going to shape that future? That is moving to me. That to me, I look at as fulfilling this life's purpose that I have, that I've defined for myself. So thank you for having me. That's the first thing. Then the second thing, I too have to plug Rosenquest for Plattsburgh.com on the web, Rosenquest for Mayor on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I do have a small YouTube channel as well for the campaign. And I think at the end of the day, if I had any parting thoughts for you all, is this is probably going to be one of the most important mayoral elections that we have, because we're in a crisis, because we are on the precipice of some growth, and Rosenquest for Plattsburgh.com.
Plattsburgh.
Yeah. Sorry. So that for me is an invitation to you all to do some homework. Who is going to be the best person, who has the skills, who has the ability, who has the knowledge, who has the network to take the potential of our community and move it into something that is real, that is a generational transformation. And I'm asking you to consider that I am that person, based on my history here, based on my skill, based on my understanding of politics. And so, I really just thank you all for giving me this opportunity, for giving me this platform. And I know I don't say it often, but I love you and thank you for having me. Yeah. And Sandra's back with her presentation. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, awesome.
If you want me to post anything on the event page after, I will post Rosenquest for Plattsburgh.com on there, so that you can